Greetings and salutations, dear viewers, and welcome to another hopefully informative episode of Lost in Time, the games that time forgot. I'm your host and ace combat pilot... God, that sounded terrible. Zonic94. Good evening. In today's show, I'm going to take you guys back 10 years ago to the declining days of the Dreamcast era with Propeller Arena, Aviation Battle Championship, developed by Sega AM2 and due to have been released in the fall, possibly September of 2001. The story behind Propeller Arena's cancellation is one of the more tragic. The game itself was actually completed and was very close to being released. However, in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, Sega decided to not go forward with releasing it due to one of the game's levels, entitled Tower City, eerily resembling the sad events which took place in New York City. The fact that the game also featured cover art based on this level didn't exactly help matters either. So through a combination of not wanting to get bad press and predicting low sales due to the Dreamcast's declining market, Sega axed the game's release, and plans for a release on other gaming systems further down the line never materialized. It wasn't until 2004 that an anonymous collector ripped the disc image of a pre-release copy of the game and shared it online for Dreamcast owners to finally enjoy. Using this disc image, I have successfully managed to burn the game onto a CDR, and I'm delighted to tell you that it's ready to be played and reviewed. So without further ado, let's commence takeoff. Okay, I promise that's the last time I make a shitty aviation gag. Anyway, Propeller Arena can best be described as an arcade-style flight combat game with a heavy emphasis on deathmatching other aircraft. The game offers several modes of gameplay, including Championship, which is essentially arcade mode where you participate in a series of dogfights in sequence, Quick Battle, which is pretty much free-play mode for any of the game's arenas, and of course the split-screen multiplayer for up to 4 players, which is really one of the game's major selling, or in this case downloading points. Online multiplayer is present in the game, but considering the game's cancellation and the shutdown of official Dreamcast servers, it's a feature that probably doesn't work unless there exists some sort of crazy independent server or what have you. There's also a training mode where you can partake in various mini-games to test your flying skills, but I'll get into that mode a little bit later. When playing the game alone, there are a maximum of 5 opponents in an arena, with the basic goal being to shoot down as many aircraft as you can until the timer runs out. If you get shot down during a level, you will momentarily respawn at a random location, and if you actually manage to become skilled enough to take down a total of 10 aircraft, the level will automatically end regardless of how much time was left, proclaiming you with the title of first place. At the start of a game, you are armed with only a simple machine gun for your plane, but scattered throughout the arenas are a variety of power-ups that the player can collect to gain a higher advantage. Some of these power-ups range from temporal upgrades like shields and invisibility, to special weaponry such as missiles and mines. There are even some power-ups that help disrupt your opponents by reversing their flight controls, as well as freezing their controls entirely, which, for levels that include a lot of high-rising obstacles, can be quite useful. The controls are very easy to adapt to, with the triggers acting as accelerating and deaccelerating, in addition to the A button and Y button acting as your primary and secondary weapons respectively. A key to successfully evading opponents in an arena is by pulling off airborne tricks, and by pressing the X button in conjunction with a certain combination of analog stick directions, the player can execute a wide variety of trick maneuvers such as sharper turns, loop-de-loops, and yes, barrel rolls. While most of these tricks are really just for show and aren't 100% mandatory, there is one special trick mechanic in particular that can really help out if you're struggling to shoot down any opponents. By achieving a certain distance behind an opposing aircraft, a button prompt will appear for you to activate a boost mode called Chance Time, which enables your plane to automatically follow the flight pattern of the enemy, helping you deal plenty of close-range damage until the aircraft is eventually annihilated. It's a cool little mechanic, and it's definitely helped me take down more planes than just tailing them manually. Overall, Propeller Arena's gameplay just oozes of that good old AM2 arcade quality that, much like their Virtua Fighter games, holds a perfect balance between arcade action and simulated realism. The arcade style half of the game is simple. It's fast-paced and loaded with plenty of trick combinations and power-ups to keep the player engaged. The simulation half of the game, however, is most evident by the skill and concentration required from the player to prevent their plane from stalling or crashing into a high-rising obstacle because you overestimated your chances of making it above safely in time. There isn't really that much depth to everything, but that's just what makes the game work so well. Its simplicity appeases greatly to both casual gamers who like their games easy to pick up and play, and more experienced players who like games that are easy to play but are challenging to master. In addition to the main arcade and multiplayer modes, Propeller Arena also features a good number of training stages for tricks and maneuvering in the training arena mode. Trick training is essentially a test of how many combinations you can successfully execute before a dwindling time limit changes the commands to the next page of tricks. Fail 3 pages and you lose the session. Maneuvering, on the other hand, is your typical flying through rings affair with a plotted course of rings you have to navigate through before the time runs out. You don't automatically lose from skipping a certain number of rings, but missing them takes away precious seconds from your time limits, so good flying skills and great speed are what win the day in these stages. Also, a quick question for everyone, does this piece of footage remind you of a certain Nintendo 64 game? In addition to getting you more familiar with how the game is played, Training Arena also includes a variety of additional missions for those who wish to put their skills to the test. Some examples of missions include having to shoot down a barrage of missiles before they hit the ground, collecting a certain number of pickups within the time limit, and even destroying an entire freaking asteroid with nothing but missile power-ups. Damn. All in all, the extra missions on offer in Training Arena really help add to the replay value of this game and, in a way, act as Propeller Arena's own crazy box. Its additional content is completely optional, but they provide something a little bit different from the main game and help improve your skills along the way. Plus, you've really got to love a mission where you literally prevent a natural disaster, right? While Propeller Arena can definitely be described as a fun game, if I was to point out one major flaw to be found in the game, it would have to be the trick controls. Using the good old DC controller to pull off tricks can prove to be quite a challenge because the analog stick, as even the most diehard of Sega fans will tell you, is admittedly not the best and requires a lot of precision in order to execute certain maneuvers. Now granted, if you're playing the game on some sort of Dreamcast emulator, it's not that big of a problem because, well, you can use whatever controller input you want. But if you're someone like me who wants to experience the game the way it was intended to be played with an actual Dreamcast controller, it can be a major annoyance. It is possible to get used to it, but it takes a lot of adjustment and concentration. Other than that one problem, however, I really can't find any more fault in Propeller Arena simply because of its sheer charm factor for Dreamcast gamers like myself. The game is in a way a history of what type of games Sega released back in the late 90s and early 2000s. The characters are classic arcade Sega affair in that they are delightfully goofy, even though you don't see their faces throughout most of the game, and the cheesy one-liners they spout whenever they take down an opponent never fail to bring a smile to my face.
Did you see the awesome power of the USA?
The soundtrack also has that cheesy sort of charm to it with its heavy emphasis on punk rock that back then was all the rage in video games from Crazy Taxi to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It's nothing too memorable, but it definitely gets the job done.
Like a survivor, a poser in a new dress, a love affair with a danger. Do you think you're gonna impress?
One final praise I'd like to give Propeller Arena is its presentation. The game features quite simply some of the best visuals I've ever seen in a Dreamcast title. The plane models look great in motion, and the environments are impressive not only in their scope, but in their sheer detail. Even though you'll probably be spending most of your time far away from them, a lot of these buildings are pretty well textured up close, and some of the stages include memorable background details such as the space shuttles taking off the airport arena and the fireballs erupting out of the volcano. Overall, it's a great looking game that holds up pretty well today. So with everything covered and me finished with exposing my DC fanboyishness, I think it's time to wrap everything up with the final verdict. In conclusion, Propeller Arena is without a shadow of a doubt one of the best games that was never released. It offers a fast and engaging arcade experience that really proves to be a great fit for the Dreamcast console, and if you love air combat games, it really ranks up there as one of the best on the system. Not that there is that much of a choice, of course. But if what you're looking for is really a great little multiplayer game, Propeller Arena definitely delivers on that front, as it's pretty much deathmatching in the sky. What's not to love about that? In regards to its cancellation, it was perfectly understandable for Sega to not release the game for the Dreamcast considering the declining relevance of the system following the company's shift to a software publisher, but to cancel the game entirely just because of one level that visually resembled a tragic terrorist attack feels like a complete waste to me. They could have easily edited or cut out Tower City, and I'm sure the game would have done just fine on some other system with online support. But then again, if they did cut out Tower City, they would have been cutting out one of the best arenas to be found in the game. It's one of my personal favourites at least. One could hope that in this day and age where renewed interest in Dreamcast games has developed following the digital re-release of several flagship titles, Sega could finally give the game the official release it deserves by putting it on Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network, online dogfights and all. So whether you're a Dreamcast fan looking for something quote-unquote new to play for the system that isn't a homebrew title, or you really just like the look of what the game has to offer, definitely give Propeller Arena a look. Or if you really want to, start a petition for Sega. Propeller Arena for XBLA, you could make it happen. And with that, we come to the end of another Lost in Time episode, everyone. So until we meet again, this is Zonic94 saying good night, goodbye, and permission to land granted. I broke my promise, didn't I? Fuck.